Welcome to Ask the Expert. I'm Greg Kirkham, and today I'm here with Sohrab Mirmont, producer and owner of Mirmont Pictures, based all the way in Salt Lake City, Utah. Welcome to the show, Sohrab. It's good to have you.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
So let's dive right in. First, you're carrying on an incredible dynasty, but how did you get started in the film industry?
Yeah, great question. And well, I was first inspired at a very young age because of my uncle, who, as you mentioned, carrying on the great dynasty. My uncle was a filmmaker. He won the Palme d'Or in 1997 when I was just a young little boy. Didn't really know what that meant at the time, but later on I pieced together that my uncle was quite the figure in the film industry. And I knew he lived a very amazing life, traveling the world, meeting the most incredible people, and making amazing films that really touched people and changed people's perspectives. So early on, I tried to do everything I could to get on his sets, but I was living in America and he was filming in Iran, and it was kind of hard to get back there to be on his film set. So he gave me a piece of advice, and he said, if you want to be in films, you got to read a lot of books. You got to learn a lot about the world, because as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, you are taking your experiences, your life experiences, and you're putting them on the screen to share with others. And if you don't have life experience, you won't have too much to share. So I started my journey by reading as many books as I could, eventually going to film school when I was around 19 years old in Florida, and making my first real short film there at the age of 19. And that went to the New York International Film Festival and won a couple of awards and traveled the world a little bit. And that was the validation I needed to continue forward. Made a short film that did well, and I was like, all right, I can do this.
And you've done quite a few films now. I know, including some BBC documentaries, some independent films, quite a few of those. Are there any projects that you are especially proud of that you've done lately?
Yeah, I definitely, starting out, I was trying to do as much as I could just to become a well-rounded filmmaker. So yeah, I did quite a bit of documentaries with the BBC. Those turned out very well. I mean, most recently, my passion is in narrative storytelling, and there's a little bit of crossover of that in documentaries because you're still shaping and shifting a story, even though it's true life. But narrative filmmaking is where my heart's at. And recently in 2023, I produced a film called Riddle of Fire, which premiered at the Cannes Film Festival in 2023. And that was an amazing experience. I'm extremely proud of that film. I'm working on another project right now that takes place in Venice, Italy. We actually just shot a proof of concept that we're shopping around for financing. And I'm also working on a long documentary. It's taken about 5 years, and there's still probably a few years left on it, but that's based in Cambodia, which you caught a glimpse of a little while ago. So
Yeah.
got exciting things on the documentary.
Yes, you do. Yeah, the documentary on Cambodia, I was at that premiere, and I'm so excited to see this rolling out. You're doing such incredible work, my friend. It is such a pleasure to be able to have you on the show and be dive in. For anybody who doesn't know Sohrab, he's gotten well over 1 billion views on films, including his 2 BBC films. Just those two alone, I think, amassed over 1 billion views, if I'm not mistaken.
They did. I mean, they were very touching documentaries. They had to do with real life human conditions. I mean, one was about twins that were separated at birth, and one was about a girl who has a allergic reaction to sunlight. And it's just about how these people are persevering and pushing through all of the barriers that life has given them. And if they can do great things in life, I mean, what is holding people back who have no physical restraints? And that was the message of both of those BBC documentaries, and I think that's why it did so well. It traveled far and wide, well over 1 billion views.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, with you, one thing that I love about your storytelling, about your filmmaking technique, is you really bring in part of the heart. You emphasize the emotional impact of the topics that you're covering. You really dive into it, and evoke those emotional reactions, which is the art of creative storytelling, I would say.
Thanks, Greg. I mean, I think a part of that is because I'm a sensitive person, and
Mhm.
I think stories, touching stories, really impacts me. And when I'm editing a project, as most of my films I edit as well, I'm really looking for those emotional beats, things that pull on my heartstrings. And I know that if it's pulling something out of me, then it's probably going to hit home with a lot of people. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that you see that. And yeah, I think the great storytelling is, well, they say film is nothing more than an empathy machine, big empathy machine, where you put
Yeah.
yourself in the shoes of another person. So if your film is doing that, then you're doing a good job making that film.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, especially with you mentioning the empathy machine, right? If somebody can't place themselves in the shoes of the person in the film that you're trying to evoke an emotional response for, then you're kind of treading water at that point. You've mastered that art of being able to really finely evoke those emotional responses without necessarily pushing it beyond the empathetic point. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I'm not really telling you what to think. I'm just piecing it together in a way that makes sense. And ideally, the
Mhm.
subject matters and the films that I choose to do have heart in them to begin with. And so then if you can just execute that properly and you use the right participants, be it a documentary or actors, if it's a narrative film, then
Yeah.
it should be pretty easy to convey the message and not force you to feel anything. You just are supposed to feel it naturally.
Yeah, it just comes naturally. I love that. So, finally, what's one piece of advice that you would give somebody today if they were entering into the industry?
Mm. There's so many pieces of advice, but I was thinking about this because this is a question I get asked quite often, and this is really just for anybody making a film. And getting into the industry, I think one of the hardest things to do is to find your community and find people who are willing to work with you for maybe no budget in the beginning, so you can build your career and reputation. Finding community is an important thing, and there's definitely places you can go to, like 48-hour film project. That's this quick, weekend film festival where everybody gets together and makes films for no money practically, and that's like part of one of the rules, and that's where you can meet a lot of your tribe. But beyond that, one of the deeper answers is once you're on set, once you're making a film, keep bad news to yourself because it's inevitable when you're filmmaking that things are going to fall through and you're going to have lots of problem solving to do and things may not work out. And I can't stress enough to say that filmmaking is a creative community collaborative effort, and one piece of bad news can spread fast and it can affect the entire production. I'll give you a quick example. On this film Riddle of Fire, we shot it on 16 millimeter film, and as the producer, I was every night taking the film reels and shipping them off to FedEx. I think it was in Kansas or Kentucky where the film was going to be developed. One day we were like 2 weeks into filming, and one of the film reels went missing. The lab had not gotten it yet, and I was the only person who got the phone call about this. Like, hey, we haven't received this one reel, and to me that was just kind of devastating news because to reshoot those that day was cost maybe $100,000 or so.
Mhm.
I kept that news to myself, burdening myself with the idea that we're gonna have to somehow go back and reshoot this thing. Didn't tell anybody. Didn't tell the director. I kind of had faith, but in the background, I was filling out the E&O errors and omissions insurance paperwork so we could maybe get that $100,000 to reshoot. But then all of a sudden, miraculously, the film reel showed up. The lab got it, and all crises were avoided. And I could have told people, I was like, "Hey, man, we've lost this reel," and it would have caused pandemonium. It would have affected the shooting days. But kept it to myself, and it all worked out.
Boy, could you imagine if you had told them that the reel was lost and how much havoc it caused? That would have been so frustrating. So, yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so
So
much for sharing that with us today. To learn more about Sohrab Mirmont and Mirmont Pictures, visit sbxtv.com.